Hello everyone, my name is the anime Avion. I'm a new name in the anime review field on YouTube, and I'm hoping to kind of get into the medium because I've wanted to for a while. I've been watching anime for 8 years, and I always thought reviewing was something that'd be cool to do, but I never had the audacity to really get on YouTube and actually do it. I've only watched other people's reviews and always kind of sat there like, hey, that's something I'd like to do. Before you ask, no, I don't have any correlation or relationship to Joey, the anime man, even though our names are similar. I've never met him, and I've never spoken to him. At least not until he sues me for copying his name. But, with that said, I wanted to kind of start my channel off here. I want to get my first review in. The first review is going to be about Bungou Stray Dogs. It's an anime that really picked up on the 3rd episode recently. And I'm feeling like a lot of people dropped it because the first 2 episodes were silly and didn't really go anywhere. And I feel like a lot of people may have never even given it a shot because the introduction, I guess, wasn't appealing. So, with that said, I'm hoping to review it in such a way that it doesn't talk it up too much. I want to focus on the good and the bad. But I also want to get people back into watching it. I don't want people to drop a show that could potentially turn out good. So that's my focus on this video. These first few videos are going to be very strange because I'm sitting here talking to my microphone all alone in my room, and it feels really awkward. Normally, I'm at least talking with someone over Skype, but this is different. So, with that said, let's get right into the review of Bungou Stray Dogs. So first things first, I want to add some aesthetic appeal to this video. You can't just sit here the whole time looking at this anime Avion banner that I made in Photoshop within 20 minutes. But what am I going to add? You're probably thinking, hey, he'll add some really nice clips of Bungou Stray Dogs. He'll add something that'll entice me to watch the series, that'll show me how cool it is. That'd be cool, but that's not what I'm going to do. You may be wondering why. It's because I'm absolutely terrified of YouTube and their copyright laws. I don't know how they work specifically for anime. And I feel like if I end up using a clip that I'm not allowed to, they're going to go ahead and let some Japanese company sue me for $50 million, and I'll walk into the courtroom going, hey, I've got $5 to my name, let's go. And that's not going to work. So, instead of having cool clips, we're going to have this nice little picture here. You like it? Good, because it's going to be the entire video. I am hoping that you're okay with that. You can just tab out and listen to it because this video is pretty much going to be audio, and it may remain that way until I figure out how these copyright laws work. And to make absolutely sure that YouTube's not going to get on my butt for this video, I'm even going to put this on. And with that, now I can talk about the show. I think a good way to start this review would be to go on to Crunchyroll and look at their description for the show, because that might give us a gist of what's going on and what we're going to be talking about. So, let's go ahead here and pull up Crunchyroll's description. Alright, there it is. Let's read this. Kicked out of his orphanage and on the verge of starving to death, Nakajima Atsushi meets some strange men. That's not good. Alright, so moving on from that, I don't think that description quite fits what I'm looking for. I'm going to give you guys my own description of the show. We start off the show with Atsushi. He is the white-haired boy on the screen that you're looking at right now, and he is also the protagonist of this show. I feel I should mention at this point in time there are going to be spoilers in this little segment where I tell you about the show. It's only going to be spoilers of the first episode, so don't feel too pushed away from it, but there will be spoilers. So, with that said, we're moving back to Atsushi. We meet him first. He was kicked out of an orphanage, unbeknownst to him as to why. He thinks that people just don't like him, and he's down and depressed. He feels like no one accepts him, not even an orphanage. He ends up meeting Dazai, which is a red-haired or ginger suicidal maniac, or detective, whatever you would like to call him. But he meets Dazai, and Dazai, at the point that he meets him, is trying to kill himself, because that is what Dazai does. When he meets Dazai, he is actually looking for food because he's hungry, and he originally intentions to pickpocket Dazai and get his money so that he can then buy food. But being the kind soul he is, he ends up actually saving him, and that leads us down a long road of figuring out why Atsushi was kicked out of his orphanage, because it wasn't just because people don't like him, even though that's what he thinks. And we're introduced to the concept that there is a rampant tiger running around and killing people, which is kind of strange because I feel like people would notice if there was something off about a tiger running around the city rampant, and no one in the anime seems to have any kind of qualms with it. They just accept it and go, oh, okay, yeah, tiger, yeah, sure, alright, bye. And but yeah, so we're introduced to this tiger concept, and the show goes on, and here's a spoiler. We find out that Atsushi himself is this tiger. He is actually a were-tiger, and he turns into that tiger whenever the full moon is out. The one who figures this out is Dazai, and it turns out that's the reason why he was kicked out of his orphanage and why people have tended to reject him. And he does not know that he's the were-tiger. This is the first time that he learns it, and this sends us into the rest of the show, where he ends up joining Dazai in his detective agency where all of them have different superpowers, even though he was kind of iffy about joining the agency at first. But that's pretty much where we're at right now, is he's now in this agency of people with supernatural powers. So what I've summed up to this point is pretty much what's happened all through the first 2 episodes. Now, this whole joining the agency and whatnot, and figuring out he was a tiger, essentially the only thing suspenseful and interesting that happened within that segment was finding out that Atsushi himself was the tiger. Meaning somehow the show had to fill the gaps with something that was interesting, and they tried kind of off-putting comedy, maybe. I thought it was alright at times, but I can see how it would throw people off the show, because the comedy itself is not enough to draw you into the show. It's not enough to say, hey, this show's gonna turn out good. So people would probably watch the first episode, go, hey, that's an interesting concept, but I really didn't like how the show's playing out, and they would drop it. The reason that I'm writing this specific review is because the most recent episode that was released, episode 3, really picks up. It becomes very interesting, and they kind of fade out with the off-putting comedy. They keep it in there because it is an essential part of the show, but it's not the focus anymore. They add new characters, they develop a plot. And that's what I wanted to get at with this video, is that the show is improving. Now, you may be wondering how. Well, I can tell you exactly right now. We are introduced to a character named Ryunosuke. Now, Ryunosuke, I imagine, is meant to act as the main antagonist of this series. He has, of course, some special ability that makes him all-powerful, but he also is with a group of people called the Port Mafia, who is essentially a mirror of the detective agency, except that mirror is against them. So you have this kind of war going on, the Mafia versus the detectives. And the interesting thing is, the way the 3rd episode played out isn't like you would think it would. Essentially, a lot of times in shows you'll have these overwhelming protagonists who have these crazy powers, or who just can't be beat, and they'll just dominate the competition. But that didn't happen in this show. The protagonists actually were weak. They didn't dominate the competition, and Ryunosuke's, I guess, fame was actually held up in the fight that we saw in the 3rd episode. Now, I don't want to spoil too much, but the 3rd episode builds a lot of tension, and we kind of get further into what the series is actually going to be, which I imagine is going to be more of an action anime, which has a lot to do with the clashing of the Port Mafia and the detective agency. So, with that said, I'm going to go more into the review now, instead of talking about what's happening in the show, because I want you to watch it. I don't want you to sit here and have me tell you everything that happens. As for the review, I think the show is going to turn out decent from what I've seen so far. I think it's going to be a good show. Now, the first 2 episodes, I agree, are not that great. Even during the first episode, I had trouble getting through it. I would pause every 3 minutes and I would go do something else because it just wasn't that interesting. And throughout the first 2 episodes, I was thinking, hey, I don't know if this is going to be a show that I'm going to like. I don't know if this is going to be something that I want to continue with. But come the 3rd episode, I got that feeling, that anime feeling, where something happens and you're like, whoa, that was cool. That it's hard to pull out of someone who's been watching shows like this for years. Getting that feeling tells me this show does have potential. The studio who's producing it knows what they're doing, and they can bring it far depending on how they do it. Now, I'm not saying this show's going to be great. I'm not saying that this 3rd episode says, wow, this show's going to be the best this season. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this show has potential, and I would grandly recommend that you at least give it a shot. At least get through the first 3 episodes and see how you feel about the show. The art is very well done. The sound I cannot comment on because I'm not exactly an audiophile. I don't pay too much attention to that. The characters themselves, some of them are kind of dull, some of them are kind of interesting. We're getting further into character development for Dazai, and he's becoming more of an interesting character, and I'm hoping that they're going to build upon Atsushi after he learns more about who he is or what he is and how to control his inner power. So the show itself is something I would recommend, and that's about as far as I can go with it right now. I can't tell you how it's going to turn out. I can only recommend it, and that's about as far as I can go with this review. Like I said, the first few reviews are going to be awkward. They're not going to be perfect. This one obviously has a lot of work that can be done on it, but this is just to get out there and to start trying this. But for this show, for Bungou Stray Dogs, my final comments are, it's a good show. It's something I recommend watching. It has the potential to turn out really good. And I'd recommend at least giving the 3 episodes that are out now a shot before it gets too far ahead and you just get lost and you don't want to go look at the show or go look at the episodes. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and end this review. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, you can subscribe if you want to. You can like if you want to. Those are up to you. What I want you to do is comment. I want to talk with you guys. I want to start a discussion. That's the whole point of this channel, is I want to converse with people about these shows and see how my opinions match with others. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.